lot on this table, but there can only be one show.
MTC Beats.
It's time for the Money Mind Mastery Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? My name is MP.
My name is Stefan, SB.
And we are the Triple M Podcast. Triple M's. What does it stand for, SB? Let them know.
I don't know. Just kidding. It's a Money Mind Mastery.
And today,
You got a good one,
we
baby.
got a real good one, man. There's a real good guest on our pod. And we'll get straight into the intro and we'll shoot the shit today, man.
Yes,
So
sir.
today, we have a pro boxer and currently the NABF super lightweight champion. He made the pros at just 19, sparred with legends like Zab Judah, Danny Garcia, and even put in work at Mayweather's gym in Las Vegas. He's got 35 wins, 25 knockouts under his belt, and he ain't stopping anytime soon. So welcome to the Triple M Podcast, Steve the Dragon Claggett.
Welcome, man. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here.
It's gonna be real good, man. Because like we followed each other for quite some time here, and now that we are in the presence of the legend, man, no, can't beat it, man. Can't beat it.
I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, how's things, man? How's life?
Everything is good. I'm just going steady. I get ready for the next fight on September 8th. Training camp starts, and we're just rocking and rolling, man. Same thing.
Hell
Same
yeah.
thing.
I'm excited for that. It's
He
gonna be
said,
fireworks.
He said what did you say when you came in? You got to stay. No.
If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready.
Yes, sir. There you
Boom, he stay ready, baby.
There
So
you go.
let's get this pod started off with something we call the gratitude series.
Yes,
We
sir.
got it from our Ninong. Ninong in Filipino means Godfather.
Godfather.
So he's an honorary godson now,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? So the gratitude series, SB, what is it?
We just want to start off the show with something that we're grateful for. Just something that we, whatever it is, could be something big, something small. Just start on a positive note. Why don't you start this one?
Done. I'll start. So for me, I'm grateful for our support network.
That's what I was going
Right?
to say.
All the people that are like behind us, people in our gym, all our homies and all
Yeah.
that stuff that's supporting the cause. I'm forever grateful for them because if they ain't supporting us, bro, no one's watching. So that's what I'm grateful for. SB, how about you?
Man, our mind is on. We're on the same thing. Because that's exactly what I was gonna say, man. Just our circle, our network, man. It's a social media actually in general. We wouldn't have met him without social media, Instagram. But here we are, man. It's just we're always 3 degrees of separate or that connection, and that's what I'm grateful for, man.
Hell yeah. How about you?
sir.
You know what I'm grateful for? The potential of the future. So all the things that are coming, I see major growth in Calgary as a city. I see potential with myself and my team, my management, my promoter, and like all the stuff on the horizon. So I'm grateful for the future and the ability that I have to shape shift and make the future as good as we can.
Hell yeah, I love it. And that's important though. Like
Absolutely.
just shaping the future. Because, bro, if we don't have that like strong like leadership now, dude, the youth, the athletes right now, they wouldn't have a chance.
Not at all.
And like you're shaping up Canadian boxing, bro. And I'm proud to have you here. It's sick.
Thank you.
And we just saw the thing. You're number 3 in Canada.
Yeah, on the pound for pound list. So that's
We got it
big.
right. We got
That's
him right
big,
here.
man.
Yeah,
I'm-
huge.
Yeah, congratulations.
I'm happy about that. Thank you.
So let's get started, man. Obviously we all know your background. We all know that you're the legend of the city, man. Let's talk about how you got started.
Well, like at the very beginning,
The
when I was a
very
kid.
beginning, yep.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I played all sorts of sports. I played hockey. I played basketball with my cousins. Played some football, soccer, swimming, lacrosse, baseball. Like I did
You tried everything.
I did everything.
Yeah.
And then I had one time, I was playing hockey, and I was, I was probably around 11, 12, and then I got into a fight in hockey. I got into like a scrum. It was like, you don't really fight. Like we're not taking off our gloves or taking off our helmets or anything, but we're fighting. And then this kid was bigger than me, but I'm trying to fight him. And then he like got the best of me, but it wasn't because I lost to him. It wasn't like a fight. We threw our sticks down. I stepped on my stick as we were wrestling, and he got me. And I remember I was so mad. I went home after. I was mad on the way home. I was mad the next day. I was mad the next night. Like, and my mom, my dad, they see me and they're like, "You're upset, huh?" Like,
They knew.
You're really
They knew.
upset.
Yeah.
And they already knew that I had an aggressive streak. So I guess it was like a vent. And I owe that
Okay.
one to my mom because she's like, "I got you a lesson. I got you a boxing class. You can learn from a trainer. You go for a one-on-one and see if you like it." And it was just, I know it was to vent and to get out the potential of what was coming because I was in a bad state. But it was perfect, man. I went there. I trained the first day. My trainer, Eric de Guzman, we were working. And I remember he said, "You got a right hand. You can punch." And I think I had something right away.
Yeah.
And this is what started me into the game, and I loved it immediately. It was a vent for all my problems and my aggression. I put it into it, and it ended up being something. I had so much to vent, I made a career of it.
Absolutely, man. So you went straight to boxing. You didn't try like Muay Thai, karate.
No, I went straight to boxing, and then we were training in like the corner of a different gym. We didn't have a full boxing gym. We just had a heavy bag and pads.
Yeah.
So we started from there, and that was like the beginning of it. And then later down the road, Eric opened up his own gym, and the rest is history, man.
Is history.
But that's where it started. It started with an angry kid who needed a vent, got
Yeah.
put into boxing as a punishment, turned out to be something of a passion, and then I had so much to vent, it kept going, man. Still going.
venting till this day, man. September 8th.
That's
and
right.
the guy that you're about to face.
Still going.
About to feel it.
Right. How old were you at that time?
I was like 11, 12. I was probably turning 12. I was right around there, like a young
Real
kid.
young.
I was
Yeah.
like, grade
Like-
6 or...
As a kid, with a lot of kids, they just want to play video games. They want to hang out with their friends. Did you were you just like forced into boxing? Were you like some days were you just like, "I don't want to do this, mom"? But were you like, just let's do this, mom? I'm down. I love
No,
this.
I loved it right
Off the
away.
bat.
Right away, I
Wow.
loved it because it's an outlet. It's an outlet.
Yeah.
So I never had something where I got to hit stuff and it's okay. I never had something where you get to be aggressive, let it go, like get it all out there.
Yeah.
And then it led to internal discoveries. I find out about myself. I see what I'm good at. This is my strength. This is my weakness. It's just there's so much that comes with the game, but it was like right away I fell in love with it.
Absolutely, man. Damn. Well, let's fast forward because I know you've been in a lot of podcasts. And you've already told this story, but let's fast forward to your first amateur fight and your first pro fight against I think back in 2008 against Brandon Karlik.
Yeah.
Talk about the actual difference because I know you had your very first amateur and your very first pro. Like, talk about the difference in that one.
Well, the age was a big one because I had my first amateur fight as soon as I turned 13.
Wow.
So I was just turning
Really,
13.
like the year after you got into boxing.
Yeah, right away. And then I remember it all, man. I won't say like names or anything, but I remember the guy that I fought, and I remember the first amateur fight I have. I go there, and this guy was like cool, man. This guy like he had his robe on, he had like girls with him.
How old was this guy?
He was a year older than me.
Okay.
He was a year old,
Okay.
or maybe even 2 years old. He was a little bit bigger than me. He had 5 fights. It was like this whole thing. I remember getting there and I saw him, and I was like, "Yo, I'm like, that's who I'm fighting." Like,
this the star?
This guy's like a superstar. So, yeah, I remember it. I remember it really well. And then in the fight, I came out, and the first couple punches, I jab, and I'm doing it like in the boxing gym.
Yeah.
I'm doing how we practice, how we spar. But we spar with our friends, and we spar with people we're working on stuff. This guy wasn't sparring. This guy was fighting. And I remember I jab, and I move, and this guy comes up and he hits me like it's a street fight. He hit me as hard as he could, straight right hand, like looping right hand.
Yeah.
Boom, hit me on the nose. And I remember it, like, makes my eyes water, and I come back with the jab, and he does it again. Boom, and he hit me hard, like twice, right on the button. And I remember hearing his friends in the crowd, and somebody's like, "First round KO." And I was like, and I forgot, like, I didn't forget, but I just said, I don't care about boxing. I don't care about
It's a
technique.
fight.
I'm fighting.
Yeah.
And then I started just letting it go. I had a couple good punches that I worked on, but my right hand was mean, and I hurt him. And then we're kids, right? So we fight like 1 minute rounds. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
real quick.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But I come back in that round and it was okay. But the next round I was all over him because I was just fighting. I wasn't really thinking about technique or
Yeah,
nothing. I was
yeah.
fighting. And I give him a standing 8 count. So that means
Ooh.
it's almost like a knockdown.
Knockdown, yeah.
But the ref's like, we don't want him to go down. It's an amateur fight. So they give him a standing 8 count. And then I hurt him real bad in the 3rd round too. And then after the fight, okay, so it goes to decision. And they say, in the winner, unanimous decision, boom, me. And I was like, man, that was the craziest. It was a roller coaster
Yeah.
of my life. But that's what locked me into the game. Because after the fight, I remember being like, it was all worth it. Everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a headache. I had my nose hurt. And I was all, I was banged up from the fight. But it was so worth it. And that's what attached me to the game where I loved it. It was worth the hardship. It was worth going through it. But also I'm like, that was like what started my relationship to boxing. So, it could be a bad thing, could be a good thing, but I'm always ready for a hard fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the game. You got to endure, you got to go through it. But that was my way in. That was the entry to the amateur ranks, man. And then when I went pro, it was a whole nother stage of my life. I was already an amateur fighter. I had experience. I'd been going through it. I was actually at the time I guess it won't be between us, but here I'll tell you. When I was 19, I was 18 years old. I just got out of high school. I was in a whole lot of trouble, man.
Yeah.
All my friends were fighting. Everybody would go to the bar all the time, and we get into it. And my friends know I'm an amateur boxer, so they're like, "Oh yeah,
We got him.
Come and see
we got
one.
this." So they get me into all these things, and I never wanted to start a fight. And my dad always told me, "Don't start a fight, but you don't have to walk away, because if someone's pushing you, you gotta have a line of self-respect." And I took that and I ran with it, because for years of my life, I didn't know how to walk away from a fight. And thankfully, I learned it as I got older. But man, it was a lot of rough years for my parents because they had to deal with all the trouble I was in. But I guess when I was 18, I was fighting everybody. I was still into it, and I got kicked out of my parents' house because I was into it. Well, by choice. It was like my dad's like, "If you can keep doing this, get out
of here." Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I did, because I had friends who were living downtown. So I'm like, oh, now I'm killing it. I feel good. But I was fighting all the time. I get into it at the bar. I get into it where, it's just stupid, man. I remember waking up one day, and my friend who owned the place, we're sitting on the balcony, and I was like, man, I got to stop doing this, because it's like, I got picked up by the police last night, and that happened to me twice this week. So it was from getting into a little scrum, getting into something, and the cops come get you, and this is gonna go bad. And I'm like, maybe I should do something, man, because this is going downhill. And I remember my friend looks at me, and I was like, maybe I should go pro, man, in boxing, because I'd already been in amateur boxing. I had the potential to do it. My friend looks at me, he's like, you should go pro. Yeah. That was it.
If you're gonna fight, might as well fight and get paid for it.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So I spent the summer. I moved into my boxing gym. At the time, there was a back room, and I trained all summer. I had made a deal with a promoter, KO Boxing out of Edmonton, and Milan Lubovac was the head of KO Boxing at that point, and he had told me a couple months prior, he's like, if you want to, we'll turn you pro, because I had a good showing for the Golden Gloves in May or something like that.
Yeah.
Was earlier in the year. And I took him up on the offer, and I put my whole life into the training camp. I stopped partying. I stopped being stupid. I was, hanging out with my friends less, and I grinded, man. I put it all into it, and then I remember the fight. It was worth it. Same thing as in the amateurs. It was so worth it. It took everything from me. Had to go to Edmonton. Had to do all this stuff. Had to do the medicals. I fought this Brandon Karlik, this big dude. He was an MMA fighter, so he's one of those guys who knew how to cut weight.
Okay.
And then me, I didn't know how to cut weight. I was actually fighting heavier than what I weighed
What
usually.
was that?
Well, I was fighting at 152.
Oh, okay.
But as an amateur, I just couldn't make 141 because I didn't know how to cut weight.
Yeah.
So I was probably weighing like 145, something like that. And I was like, well, I'll just go up. I'll fight like 152.
cut, yeah.
And I was doing that in the amateurs. I went to the nationals. I won the provincials. And so I was fighting as an amateur at 152. And then in the pros, I said, yeah, 150, I think I can do that. And I get there and I see this guy, Brandon. He's like 170. I was like, yo, but MMA guys cut weight.
Yeah, they do.
But in the fight, it didn't matter because it was skills pay the bills in boxing. You know, I hurt him a couple times. I almost knocked him out in the third overhand right. I remember the fight real well. But after the fight, I won. I win decision, unanimous, majority decision. I thought it was unanimous. I mean,
It's
there's
a
no,
W.
you know
It's
what I
a
mean.
W, yeah.
They all should have voted for me because I was all over them. But it was again the same feeling. All that hardship, all that stuff, all that sacrifice. It was worth it because right at that moment after the fight, you couldn't tell me nothing, man. Now, anything that I went through, it was worth it, man. So that was the amateurs and the pros, same effect, I guess.
Yeah, that's sick, man. That must have been such a great feeling, just like winning your pro debut. Like the other guy you faced, he had some pro boxing fights under his belt,
yeah. He had 2 pro boxing fights,
And he
already.
was an MMA
And
fighter.
he was an MMA
as
guy.
well.
He had more.
That must have felt amazing, man. Now, since we're talking about like amateur and pro boxing, I know with a lot of amateurs, when they are transitioning to go pro, they usually struggle. Now, I know you mentioned that your style was made for the pros. How so?
I'm a come forward fighter. I was never scared to like take punches and block and return. I pushed the pace. I wasn't so much like a point scoring fighter. I'm more like break them down, work the body, and I think just I was always like that, and probably because of the sparring that I did, and a lot of the guys in my gym when I was coming up, we just box like that, and we do lots of rounds, and like the amateurs is like a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
But
You gotta go, yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
so you got to go, you got to make it count, and then if you get the lead, some guys move and they take the lead, score a couple points, and then they dance and move, don't give up the lead. But me, the way that I came up was, okay, we're going to go, we push, and we spar, we're fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
And then it became like that in the fight, too. And then I think it's also a product of my racing mind. Because I'm like, okay, next, and then next, and then next. So it keeps me constantly engaged, but always going. And then turned out to be a strength because I'm wearing these guys down now.
Yeah.
And so you find what you're good at and lean into it, you know?
I totally agree.
100%.
We actually watched a couple of your fights, and we were gonna say, pressure.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Pressure.
It's tiring, bro. On your back foot.
I was
Yeah,
tired watching,
yeah.
man. Imagine this guy.
It's a man dragging, just walking you down, high guard, everything, just wearing your body down.
Yep.
Dude, crazy, right?
Well, let's talk about what's next. September 8th.
Yes,
talk
sir.
talk a little bit about that fight.
Big fight. So this guy is challenging for my title, and he's 24-1, which means he's very good, and he's had a couple fights in the state. Actually, he was signed in the States, so I believe most of his fights were there. He fights in Mexico. I'm not sure actually if he's American or Mexican American right now.
Okay.
Like I don't know where he's residing, but he's a good fighter, man. And he comes to fight. He comes to bring it. But me, I'm excited because this brings the best out of me.
Definitely.
And this is a guy, he's going to come to fight. And it's like, when you get 2 guys who come forward like this is like, exactly, fireworks. And this is what, like, the matchup that we want. And for me, this is a matchup that I need this, man. Like, this is what I love this. I like someone who comes to fight. I don't mind, but sometimes some guys are boxers, movers, some guys are Mexican style, as they call it, come forwards and let's go. And me, I'm kind of like that.
Yep,
That's
yep.
my
I
Mexican
was just
style.
gonna
I'm
say.
Mexican style too because I spend a lot of time down in the States, sparring in the gyms, in Vegas, in LA, and you better be able to fight Mexican style because guys are going to put it on you if you can't.
True.
And so this fight I'll be able to show my true abilities, man. This one, because the guy's gonna fight how I want to fight too. So I love that. And so,
Tailor-made.
yeah, and this is like, it's a beautiful matchup because we're both come forward fighters, and the fans are gonna win in this one.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's
I'll tell you
crazy.
that.
I can't wait.
September 8th. Where's the fight at?
It's in Gatineau, Quebec.
Quebec.
So it's right across the lake from Ottawa. It's like real close. I fought there before once because it's not far from Montreal. We drove there, but this one's big because I'm the main event, and this is like, bro, I've been working for that for my whole life, man. Like, I'll tell you something. So it's different because I fought here in Calgary a couple times, and then I love when my friends come out, my fans, and I know those guys, so I know they're gonna cheer for me like this. So it was cool, and I love it. There's a party after. It's always amazing. But this is a different feeling because I now fight, and I don't know any of those guys who are cheering
You're the
for
main
me.
guy.
True.
Yeah, and they're cheering for me like I guess you earn it and then you can get it. But like it took years and years and years, and then I used to go there and be like the enemy of, because I'm fighting a guy from Montreal. So everybody, I fight Eves or I fight Matthew, and they, all their friends are there.
Yeah.
All their
Yeah.
friends are at the weigh-in, all their friends are at the press conference. They yell at me, cuss me out, and like I can hear it, and I'm like, it was good because I can use that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like fuel. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're gonna boo me? Watch this. But now I like this one better because the guys are cheering for me, yelling for me, and I'm like, I'll look out the ring and I'm like, yeah, and this guy's like, yes, like he's looking at me, he's like, and I'm like, yo, like they just love the sport. So I just have to do what I was already doing, and I'm getting appreciated for it. It's like the best time of my life, man.
Awesome, man. You're actually on the other side of the ring now because you're getting booed. And now you're the guy. That
Exactly.
they're aiming for.
Exactly.
Hey, let me ask you this. Why is there so many pro fights in Quebec and not on the west side?
I think it's the history. I think it's because they've had promoters and they've it's like rinse and repeat in boxing. When you put on one show, you know how to do it, you do it again.
Yeah.
And then if it's successful, you do it again. Successful, you do it again. And that's something that they've had there because they've had world title fights and they've had world champions and they had, massive. I'm pretty sure Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran was in Montreal. And like it's just history, which brings in the people. They also have the population. Like, I don't know. I think it's just, it's more popular over there, but it's been growing over here, and I love that too because now there's gyms here.
Yeah.
a lot of them.
I wanted to touch base on that because that's something that we want to ask. Us here, me being from Calgary, him being from Vancouver, the boxing scene, as you know, it's not that big compared to Montreal, Quebec. You're one of the rare guys that actually came out from a city or a province that doesn't have a lot of. They have a lot of good fighters, but they don't have a lot of famous fighters
Right.
that made it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what can we do differently here or in Vancouver that we can use that has happened in Montreal that we can use to actually build boxing?
Well, we can get together, and when you band together, they say you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
Yep.
So if you band together, you get all the people, which is always tough because gyms and gym owners and fighters, everybody's got an ego, right?
Yep.
But if you can work together, you can make things happen.
Absolutely.
And if you put this, like it could even be so simple as having this gym box with this gym, they spar together, and then they can arrange fights against each other. Those guys never spar, they can fight, or even if they did spar, they can fight. And then it's teamwork makes the dream work, man, because if you get more and more people into it, more people contributing to the show, more people bringing their friends, bringing their fans, this is a bigger show, and then rinse and repeat. Again, if you do it once, you can do it twice. So when I first started Teo Fista Promotions and all the guys, we were putting on our own shows.
Yeah.
But I used to go around and meet all my buddies, and I would sell tickets out of my hand. Like, you need 3 tickets, you need 5 tickets, you need 6 tickets. And I would meet people, and I would sell, a couple hundred tickets by hand. And this takes the effort, but if you start to work together with the other guys, then we started working with other teams, other gyms. Now they sell 100 tickets. Now they sell. So this is, you gotta work together, and we all gotta be going for the same kind of goal. But I see, somebody's gotta break the mold. Somebody's gotta go for it.
Yeah.
Somebody's gotta be like, hey, I'm trying to put on a professional show, and I see guys doing it now, and it's starting. So we just got to lean into it and keep it rolling. But it takes some effort for sure.
Exactly. It'd be nice to see like the fight capital be on this side, because you know how like Nevada, they're the fight capital. Why not Vancouver or like Calgary?
closer.
Yeah.
See, Vancouver would be a very cool place because
right.
the potential is massive, massive. Calgary too, man. Calgary is like over the last couple of years, it's just been growing so much, and I see world class potential, and it just hasn't been shown yet. So
Just
it's
need
cool.
the exposure.
Exactly.
That's why we're here, man. That's what we're trying to do. You know, we obviously all three of us love the sport of boxing. We just want to grow it, especially where we're from, man. Imagine it's like you living in Vegas and you're like, oh, MGM's right there. I can just watch the fight. We want to be that. We're like, oh, Saddle Dome's right there. Let's go. You know?
Exactly.
It'd be sick, man. So I want to talk about your experiences in the ring. So with all the pro fights that you had, was there any like boxer you faced, whether professional or amateur, that really impressed you or surprised you the most?
Oh man, a lot. Okay, so in the professional ranks, actually let's go back. In the amateur ranks, I went 8-0, and when I first started, I remember I won the Western Canadians. I beat this kid. He had like 30 fights. I stopped him, and then it makes me go up not in the rankings, but I turned open is what they call it, which means I can fight anyone with 10 fights or more. And then so because I turned open, I go to Golden Gloves, and at the Golden Gloves, I fight Cam O'Connell. Cam O'Connell is now a friend of mine. He was a professional boxer for a while as well. But he, at that point in time, I think he had like 60 fights and we were like 13, like 14. Like,
holy.
Yeah, and this guy already had 60 fights. And I remember like looking over and you know who you're fighting, right? A lot of times you go there, you go to the venue and you see, and I'm like, everyone's like, that's Cam over there, Cam. And he was cool, man. he was just chilling. He was laying down on the chairs. He had like a little thing made, and I was like, yo, this guy's relaxed, man. and I remember it put the pressure on me because I was like, look how relaxed he is. He must be experienced. Look how good he must be. And so this was an early lesson in my mind. Like, okay, this is, you can create something. You can create a mountain in your mind, or you can, do it right. But that was a hard one for me because I went through it. I saw him. I was nervous about the fight. We have the fight. And he beat me. He's the first guy to ever beat me. And I don't know if I could have beat him or like whatever. But at that point in time, he was better than me. And he did it. And I learned that time, like, if you beat yourself in the mind, you can never win the fight. It's like if you don't think, it's almost like your older brother. It's like it don't matter how big you get, how strong you are. If he's your older brother, you can't beat him.
Absolutely. That's me and my sister right now.
Right. This is like a mental thing that you create in your own head. So I learned that. I learned that early in the game, and I mean that was a crazy lesson, bro. It was a good one though, because now I learned how to defeat someone mentally. Go into the fight, and if they can't, if you're the older brother per se in their mind, they're not gonna beat you because they're looking up at you like this, and you're just focused on what you gotta do. And this is ideally how you want to be going into the fight.
True, you just want to big dog them,
Exactly.
Yeah. How about the pros?
The pros is a different game because we both know about each other before going in. A lot of the times, but sometimes, I guess a lot of times you don't. Because you can still take last-minute fights and stuff happens quick, and there's always replacements, and like boxing's a really unorganized game, man. But it's an internal battle. So if you can keep your mind straight and you can stay good up here, you can beat anybody as long as your preparation is good and you trust in your body. But like, you'll see guys who just believe in themselves, and they can go and they upset guys because I don't know. That's just how I am. And like that happens all the time too.
Let's be specific in terms of mentality. You said, everything is mental in boxing. How do you prepare yourself mentally?
Repetition in the training gives you what they call self-efficacy. So your belief in yourself, and you're like, if I say it, I'm gonna do it, and I know that because I've done it.
Okay.
And this is almost like I believe in my word, my work, and it's this I don't know, if you do it, you feel it. And I think that's why training is the key. Like, if you've done it, you know when you're going into the fight, if you're like, you kind of didn't train, you'd probably be feeling a little bit shaky. Like, maybe that might go wrong. So I think your efforts in the gym and your preparation, you owe it to yourself, and you can't lie to yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's like a big piece. And if you show up ready, I mean, it's just about bringing your best to the fight, and that's how we get the job done.
Absolutely. They say you have to train hard, so when you come fight night, fight's just easy. Let's talk about your experience overseas. Well, not really, just in the United States.
Oh yeah,
Obviously.
Overplaying, you know.
It's not overplaying. You sparred with the likes of Danny Garcia, Zab Judah.
Yep.
What was your biggest takeaway sparring with those legends?
Well, just that I can do it. You know what I mean? That I can compete at that level, and if I do the work, I can
Be there
kind of
too.
hang with those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be there too. Exactly. And I remember thinking that when I worked with Zab for the first time. I was 20. Because I remember I was in Vegas. I wasn't allowed to do anything because I was yet to turn 21. But I went to go visit the Hit Factory in Zab. I just wanted to go watch and see if I could train, hit the bags and stuff. And then I brought all my stuff with me, and we were on like a Vegas trip going to all these gyms. And I remember the guys like, yo, you're fighting at welterweight, right? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you want to work? And I'm like, and I knew what this means. And I'm like, with Zab? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And I remember I like went to the washroom, like change, and I'm sitting there looking in the mirror, and I was like, I'm like, okay.
This is happening.
Yeah, like
This
we're
is
gonna
happening.
go work with Zab.
Yeah.
And I remember we did 4 rounds. We just worked nice and sharp, nice and light, and I felt like I pushed him enough, but he wasn't obviously going all out. But we were working on technical stuff, and it was sharp. And I remember it was like good work.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I did it. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, they're like, Steve, you're pretty good work, man. You want to do the camp with Zab? And I was like, for like a sparring partner? And they're like, yeah. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Sold,
that's
man.
sick.
And that's how I got in. I got like my audition, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I did well, obviously, and it was like a realization that I can hang with, the top dogs.
Who was he fighting? Who was he fighting that time?
For that fight, I think he was fighting Vernon Paris.
Okay.
So it was a little while back, and he won that fight. I did the first training camp with him was for Vernon Paris, and he knocked him out in the 9th or something like that.
Wow.
He caught, yeah. And it was like, man, I had some good times with Zab. Like, Zab's like, he's a G, bro. And he's
OG.
he's so good, and he's so sharp. Like, you wouldn't believe it. He's so fast. He's one of these
Yeah.
guys that, like, he's quick, and to be in there and to feel it and to see it, it's like, okay, now you understand. 5-time world champ.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is the real deal. So it was cool for me, man, and that really helped me develop and grow and learn and like accept the fact that I can do it.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Now, let me ask you this. In boxing, this is that whole stigma where, like, I need to keep and maintain my O. How do you, like, mentally recover from a loss? Because there's all that talk and people duck other fighters, not
Yep.
giving the fans what they want.
Yep.
But, like, how do you just recover from that mentally?
Well, it's hard because nobody wants to lose. And I came up during the Floyd Mayweather undefeated era
Yeah.
where it was you were nothing if you lost. And I think I took my first L when I was 14-0 or something like that. I went to the Philippines. That's when I had the fight in the Philippines. And I learned about traveling and fighting because I did not do that part well. And I had the fight, and I ended up I cut weight so badly. And you lose a day going over there, so I had to cut weight even more, like even quicker, because I got there. You retain water when you're in the plane at high altitude.
Yeah.
Like, I left Calgary, I was 141. The fight's at 138. I'm like, easy, I'll make that. But then I go Seattle to Seoul, Korea, to Manila, and then to where else?
Oh, so it's not in Manila.
Cebu,
Oh,
Cebu
okay.
City.
Another plane. Yeah.
Yeah. and it was, and I'm eating at the airport, and I'm drinking water and stuff, and I didn't think anything about it, and I got there, and I stood on a scale, and I weighed 152.
Wow.
And I was like, what happened? And I was like, I didn't eat that much, like, and I was like looking up online, and it's like, yeah, you retain water when you're at high altitude, and I didn't know this, and then I'm like, okay, well, I got 4 days to cut it, and then they're like, no, you have 3 days because you lose a day going over, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, man. And then so anyways, that was a learning lesson because that was the first time I ever cut weight like that. I was just not eating. I was fasting and training, and then I remember we went to do like a test weigh and like step on the scale. And I had just got out of like a sauna thing because I was killing myself trying to make it. And I go to step on the scale and I just boom faint.
Wow.
Never fainted in my life. And I got up. Everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, and my trainer's like, "Yo, we gotta go, man. We gotta get out of here." And I went back to the room and ended up getting an IV to like rehydrate myself. But then I get up later, like the next morning when it's weigh-in time, but the IV had put me over again. So I had to cut more weight, and then I sit, and I'm like, I remember I was like skipping, it was in a mall, and I was like skipping in like a big sweatsuit in the like furnace room, like, bro, it was a disaster. But anyways, I made it, I made the weight, and that definitely led to poor performance, because the fight was, I mean, that was one of the best fights of the year in the Philippines, they said. So, I mean, I'm not ashamed of that. But I put him down twice in the third round. And then I went to try and finish him. And I missed. And I remember hearing my back pop. And feeling like all of a sudden my legs were just perfectly straight. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm fighting. And then in between rounds, I couldn't, like, sit. I remember feeling funny. And I'm up on the scorecards because it's an 8-round fight. I got 2 knockdowns in the third round. So I'm winning. And then I think that I won round 2, 3, 4, and then maybe 5 starts going the other way. And then he's coming on strong, and I start fading big time because I have a herniated disc, which I found out later.
Oh, damn.
But, like, we're fighting. And then I ended up getting stopped. Standing, I'm still on my feet, and I was just guarding, but he's hitting my guard. So I just refused to go down, and they stopped the fight with like 15 seconds left in the 8th and final round.
Wow.
So if it goes 15 more, I probably win. Decision. Okay, but I got no battles with the ref over the stoppage because I had a herniated disc. I had a concussion. I couldn't walk after the fight. I got out of the ring. I got right into a chair, and they give me like not the IV, like the oxygen thing. And then I remember being in the, oh man, that was like the harshest time of my life, because I remember going up, and then my mom had to keep me up, because when someone has a concussion, you don't want them to sleep because they could go into a coma. And then my mom's like, keep me up, and it was just like, it was crying all night, and I'm just like, and it was my first loss.
And you're not home.
And I'm not home. And it was like a disaster, and everything. I never knew that side of the coin until I had been there. And then, like, even flying back, like, I couldn't sit on the plane. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair getting wheeled to the airport. I came back, had a girlfriend at the time who didn't answer my calls, and swear, bro. And then it was like I had friends who started treating me like, like maybe he's not gonna be so big. Like, what is this kind of like? And then I realized, like, who's really on my team?
Absolutely.
Like, who's gonna be there regardless, win, lose, or draw? Those are your people. It doesn't matter. Like, and these harsh lessons that I took early in my life in boxing, I'm grateful for them now, because I understand what it takes to be on somebody's team and what it takes to have people on your team. And I know that the game goes like this. And that was one of the biggest lessons of my life, because it really taught me about, one, preparation, because I should have known about that, like cutting weight like that. And then, I mean, it took me 14 weeks until I was able to walk again correctly. because I had to get spinal decompression therapy where they like pull you apart.
Wow.
It was tough, man. And then I started like being able to do my yoga, and that's actually what got me into yoga. So that was a good thing too.
Yeah.
But I started doing, when I started to walk and I started moving, I was like, okay, I'll do shadow boxing, but I can't do it fast. So I just do slow motion shadow
Yeah.
boxing. And I would train and I'd do rounds, but slow motion. And I'm working on the little details.
It's like you're back to square one.
Exactly, bro. So it literally took me, humbled me, and then spit me back out in the game. And it's like, go do it. And then it took me so much time to rebuild my body, a couple months. But then I started getting the wheels turning again.
Yeah.
And then I had another fight right after that, and I won. And it was a good fight, but it was kind of like just a stay busy fight because
Yeah.
the opponent, he was good, but he wasn't like a challenge. He wasn't like a world title challenger or like a really really tough looming fight. But it was enough to get me back in there. And then the fight after that, I fought for the Canadian title. So. And I won. I defeated Stuart McClellan. I stopped him in the third round with a body shot. And I always say it's not about the setback. It's all about the bounce back.
All
Or the
day.
comeback. Exactly. Because
agree.
that's the name of the game, bro. It's not about what you go through. It's about
Yeah.
getting through.
I agree, man. It's again, it's a stigma to lose your O, but to me, it's a hot take. I feel like Floyd Mayweather would have been greater had he gotten the loss, because he probably would have fought bigger
With
guys.
the chip on his shoulder.
Exactly, because it's about the comeback, right? Would you
Yes.
say this loss actually shaped up to what you are or where you at right
Definitely. Because it showed me, like I was like, it's ego, right? Like I never thought I could lose, and then when you lose, it's like everything's over. But it's like, no, you can build back, and then you start coming back. You got to work on the holes in your game. Then it's a very
Absolutely.
humbling
Yeah.
experience. You obviously don't know how to prepare properly. You don't know how to finish the fight when you need it. You don't know how to defend. So these are all the things that are going through my head, and then it was humbling. But that's what boxing does to you, and it's harsh, man. And then that was still during the time of the undefeated era, where everyone was looking down on me. Everybody
Yeah.
thought I was over. Not just my girlfriend at the time, but like the boxing people, and everyone kind of looked like. But you're only as good as your last fight. So I just kept going. And then eventually you keep working. And now, mind you, I've had that happen to me 7 times. I got 7 losses on my record. And now I don't believe that I lost all those fights. But if you keep going, you will get there. And you'll get out of the spot that you're in. One of those losses I had, and I fell into depression. I was going crazy. I started, getting into trouble again. I leaned back into hanging out and doing bad stuff and whatever. But the next time, later in life, I had a loss, and I was like, I'm just not going to sit here. I'm just going to keep moving. I'm going to get training. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my recovery.
Yeah.
And then that time, everything was back to normal in a couple days, like weeks. I got another fight offer, something else. So I'm like, it's not necessarily what happens to you, it's what you do with it.
Yeah.
And then it's not just about sitting there feeling sorry for yourself that it happened. Just keep going, because you're either going to sit there where you're at or you're going to move forward. So I learned that one the hard way. That was a boxing lesson.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of people, man, I love this conversation because, not to highlight your losses, but, it's important to actually know, that at the end of the day, man, you take an L, it's about how you come back.
Exactly.
It's about how you react to what happened to you. So kudos to you, man. It's 7 losses. It is what it is.
Still going
but
strong.
Look at where you're at right now, man. Main event.
Yeah.
The belt's right here. Oh, I'm gonna touch it again, but here we are.
Right now, as a professional boxer and with at the level that you're at right now, do you feel any like pressure,
All the time.
even from like
All
the
the
public
time.
eye as well?
But actually, you know what? It was I think it was Kobe. I can't remember who said he's like, the pressure that everyone puts on me is huge, but it's nothing compared to the pressure that I put on myself, right? And it's like me in the gym, that's part of my obsession with the sport, like trying just everything's got to be the best ever, and if it's not, you beat yourself up, but you got to do it again. So it's internal battle. That's why I'm a fighter, I guess. But the pressure on the outside is only as much It's only as heavy as you allow into the inside. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's very true, man. Because if you let it consume you, that's when things get shaky.
Absolutely.
Very shaky, man. Very shaky. What's next for you?
Well, this fight, this one, September 8th, this is the biggest opportunity that I've had because I've now put myself in the spot where I deserve the main event spot. But it's not about that. It's about showing the main event action. You know what I mean? So it's like they gave me the ball now.
Yep.
And I'm going to show them, like, I've been running my whole
your show.
life.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like,
your show.
I needed this ball because I've been practicing running. I've been practicing my runs my whole life, man. I mean, metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I got the ball, so we'll see what I can do with it. And then luckily, I've been training since forever. So next is the main event, big fight to defend my strap. This one right here. And from, one fight at a time, because that's what I need. I need the best performance of my life coming up. That's what's next.
How's I know you shared this off camera, but how's training camp going?
Solid. I mean, it started yesterday, but technically it started yesterday. That's 8 weeks out. But I was sparring with Hakeem earlier in the week and the week before.
So we're kind of training already.
We've been working. We're doing our 5.5s, and we're just, I don't know, man. That if you keep getting better, you're gonna get better. That's why it's a lot of fighters. They like when there's not training camp time, they party, they lose it, but then you got to get back in shape.
Right, yeah.
And that was something that I learned when I was, an opponent, when I didn't have a promoter on my side. I was like, if I just keep getting better, I'll catch up to all these guys because they're going to offer me the fight. They're training when it's training camp time. I'm training year round.
Yeah.
I'm listening to my body. If I need rest, it'll take a couple days.
Yeah.
Okay, but I know my machine, and then it's like when it's time to work, I know. And when it's time to rest, I know. And then I get better at it. But if I just keep getting better and improving, it's a marathon. It ain't a sprint.
Stay ready, so you don't gotta get ready.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you something. So, like the business side of boxing,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't have much knowledge about that. So when you first signed on with Eye the Tiger, you were just self-managed before. Was that correct?
The years before I signed with Eye the Tiger, I was, I guess, self-managed. Like have like my buddy. Well, he was my manager. I had a manager, and then I have my trainer, and that's it. And that's like being independent in boxing, and that's a tricky thing because I always thought of it like you're in the ocean, and you're swimming if you're independent. But if you got a promoter, you're on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a different world because now you got leverage in the negotiations, and people can't offer you like low ball, last minute deals, and that's kind of the name of the game because nobody wants somebody to come and beat their guy. So they're gonna offer you a fight when you're an opponent. They're gonna offer you a fight for next week on Friday, and you're like, well, I'm not ready. Like, exactly. Like that's what they're thinking, but they want their guy to beat you. So that's the hardball business of boxing. And this is like, if there was a league, like you know what I mean. If there was like an NBA, but for boxing, it would help a lot. Even in MMA, they have UFC, so it's a unified promoter, and everyone watches that. But in boxing, there's Golden Boy, there's Eye of the Tiger, there's Top Rank, there's all these different promoters, and everybody has their own power, and they put on their own shows. And if you're gonna fight, you're what's called the B side if you go fight them on their show, unless you're politically inclined where you have some leverage as well. Okay, this is my promoter, we're gonna do it like this. It's gonna be official, maybe a co-promotion, and this, it kind of balances things out. But man, it's a crooked game because nobody wants someone to come in and beat their guy.
Yeah.
So they're gonna play every trick that they can to try and get you, even mentally, because, like, I can say it. I guess it doesn't matter. I had a fight before. I won't say where, but I was getting ready for the fight.
Yeah.
The promoter put me in the dressing room or in the warm up room. Okay, and I'm in there. I'm warming up, and as soon as I start wrapping my hands, the promoter himself came in, and he says, you got to get out of this room." And I was like, this is my dressing room. What do you mean? And then we start arguing about, you got to leave. And I'm like, I'm not leaving. And then we're in a yelling match. And this is 25 minutes, maybe 40 minutes before the fight.
What?
So you know they're doing it on purpose. And anyways, we get in a yelling match. And then eventually he's like, fine. Like, the fight's off then. And I'm like, what do you mean the fight? Like, and then I have to go to where he's telling me to go, or he's going to cancel the fight, or like something's going to... So I have to walk through this entire venue, House of Blues.
Here we go. Little by little, baby.
And then it was in Boston. And it was on St. Patrick's Day. And we were walking through the whole venue. It was also during a Dropkick Murphys concert. So I'm like getting mauled here. And it's also... I'm pretty sure it was at maybe 1 a.m. when we actually fought.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, and then, so anyways, the promoter puts me in the medical room. So that's where all the fighters who have just lost are coming in to get stitched up and checked with the doctor. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have listened to this guy. And so I'm trying to, I can't even, there's no room to skip. There's no room to do anything. And I'm trying to warm up for the fight. And then, by that point in time, it's probably 2 a.m. And it was just a disaster, bro. Like that. Then I realized that the game ain't all fair. It ain't all like this. There's a lot of things that happen, and when you get in those tight spots, you need to just keep your team close, man. Because that's one that I'm still I'm like mad about that.
That's dirty, though, dude.
That was the thing. It's like they flew me out. Not only did they fly me out the day before the weigh-in, or the night before the weigh-in, they put me on an 11 p.m. flight. And I'm like, man, this is like, they're doing this all on purpose. And anyways, I got there. I didn't have a ride to my hotel either. And these are the little And the idea is to put you in a bad mind state so that when you get to the fight, you don't feel like a winner. You feel like you're so stressed. You're not thinking. Yeah. And then this is the kind of ugly side of professional boxing, where it's A side, B side. You know what I mean? And because when you get higher up in the game, it's like, well, we fight on somewhat of an even playing field. Even if it's their promoter's show, I have my promoter backing me. They're not going to be able to pull this stuff. But when you're independent, you got nobody on your team. So that's what I'm saying. You're swimming in the ocean by yourself.
I love that, man, because I want to get into again, we're already in the business side of boxing. We talked about A side and B side. Obviously, in the bigger scale, there's always going to be that like Fury and gun. Of course, Fury is the A side in boxing, right? There's always going to be disadvantage, like you talked about. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I know it's a business side. It's probably not going to change, but how do you prepare yourself? Again, you going through it, the actual thing being the B side. What was going through your mind, and how did you actually prepare yourself to overcome that?
Well, okay, have you ever seen the picture? There's a picture of a wolf, and he's got one arrow in his back, and he's like kind of messed up. And then beside him, there's a wolf who's older, and he's got a bunch of arrows in his back, but he's standing tall. And it says, life doesn't get easier, you just get tougher. And I was always like, I hate that. I hope that's not like that. But it is. And the thing is that when you can't feel it, you can't feel it. So it's not about how many arrows you got in your back. It's about I'm still standing. And then that was one of the things that I realized as I went through the game. I was like, you know what? I don't have to do the things that they're demanding of me unless it's on the contract. So my skin got a little tougher. I don't have to do that. You tell me to do this, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do what it says legally.
Contract, yeah.
You're trying to get me to jump through these hoops. I'm not going to do that because this. And so you get, more like with yourself. You believe in yourself more. You know more. You understand more. You get more knowledgeable. But it's about, I guess, it's all an internal job, you know what I mean? So that it doesn't matter what's going on outside, doesn't matter what people are telling you, demanding this. If you're solid, which usually comes from training, being in good shape, knowing that you're in good shape,
prepared,
and knowing you're prepared, and you show that you can tell me whatever. Wow. I'm gonna show up ready to go.
So at the end of the day, it's all about preparation and just getting your mind ready. I want to ask you this one thing, 'cause you being in the industry, actually boxing, right? The 4-belt era. What are your thoughts? Let's say we're all professional boxers here, and we're all the same weight class. He can be the WBA, I can be the WBC, you can be the IBF. We're all champions. Who's the guy?
It's a lot of noise, man. but see, this is boxing. This is boxing because they're sanctioning bodies.
Yep.
Which means you got to pay that sanctioning fee to fight for that title. These guys over here, you got to pay their sanctioning fee to fight for their title. So I hate to say it, but I don't at the same. It's a money grab.
Yeah.
Because you got to pay these sanctioning fees for all 4 belts, and I mean now you're but if I choose 3, that one's gonna let go of me. I'm no longer the champion of that belt, and I've only paid for these 3, so now I'm the champions of these belts, but I didn't pay for that one, so no more. That one.
Yeah.
That's not mine anymore. So that's where it becomes kind of political, definitely. But I always wish there was a league, man. I always wish there was or an overhead who there's some sort of way to put the promoters all into one category when we can work together. We can work with those guys. That's actually the good thing about my promoter, Eye of the Tiger. They work with Top Rank. They used to work with Golden Boy. They work with, I don't know if they still do, they work with all these different promoters, and the ability to co-promote. This is what creates unified entertainment for the fans and just shows, and everyone can work together, and there's no limits, there's no restrictions. So working together is the answer.
Absolutely. Totally agree, man.
Yeah, no, you really need to work together in this industry because it's like what we were talking about earlier. It seems, and like you said, it's a money grab. It's all a business.
Yes.
Right?
Money at the end.
Yes.
Let's give the fans what they want, and then let's
You
all
know
be
what?
happy.
You know what there should be? There should be upon victory, this happens. You know what I mean? Because actually, that's one thing that the UFC does very well, where they have the win bonus.
Yeah.
And then in boxing, that doesn't really exist, which is a weird thing, right? It's like the favorite gets paid this much, this guy gets paid this
I think
much.
with UFC though, it's ran by one guy.
Exactly. One unified organizer. So he calls the shots, and this is how it's going to be. And you can't do that when everyone's got their own team.
I know.
It's like the Calgary Flames are putting on a game this month. It's like, who are they playing?
Yeah.
It's like, we'll figure out closer to it, but we're going to set everything up for them. And then when they get closer, we'll get them an opponent. It's like, who's got the favorite, or who's going to be the favorite to the win?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the Flames, because they know about the game. This is the disorganized game of boxing.
Man, I love talking about it, man, because it's our passion too, and it has to be discussed.
Yes.
It has to be discussed.
Yeah, because the more light that we shine on it, the more likely it'll be to change.
Yep. I agree.
One day at a time, right?
Yep.
Sure.
Now, I want to pick your brain on mindset, right? Because as we all know, boxing is, I'd say 90% mental.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, right?
Yeah.
It is a physical sport, but your mind has to be right every single time.
And mind controls the body. So sometimes, even if you're in good shape, if this ain't right, you ain't right.
Right? So can you share a time when your brain was really tested, your mental was really tested in the ring, and how did you get through it?
In the ring, mid-fight?
Mid-fight, yeah.
So when I fought a guy named Petros Ananian, he was 13-0. I fought him on Lee Baxter's show in Brampton, Ontario, and I went there, and I was obviously the opponent because he's the undefeated guy. We were fighting for the IBF international title, or intercontinental title, sorry. But this guy was the biggest puncher that I ever faced in my whole life. In the first round, he hit me with a punch, but pushed me at the same time. Boom, boom, and he hit me, pushed me, and I remember I went down. I did a backwards somersault, and I check for real quick as I'm standing up. I don't want to stand up too fast because I've been knocked down before. I know, and I stood up real fast. My legs were going this, and I was like, oh. But I remember checked, and I was like, oh no, I'm fine. So I stood up, and the ref's like 5, 6, and I was like, ah. But I know the rules, so whatever. I put my hands up, and then right after that, this guy came out. He had been fighting orthodox, so right-handed, the whole beginning of the first round. But he did a sneaky movement. He came out southpaw, and he came running out southpaw, and he boom put everything into this left hook to the liver, and he winded me so bad. And I just got up off the canvas, so now I'm really hurt. But going into this fight, I had lost a family member, and I had put that, like, my heart into this camp. Like, I'm not going down like that, and I'm not giving up like that. And I remember he hit me so hard in the body, and I was backing up, and he looked at me and said, "Come on, baby." And I remember he's yelling at me in the fight, and I'm like tucking my chin, just trying not to go down. He's just swinging, yelling, and I was like, I won't break. Like, I remember this guy just in the crowd screaming, and I'm just putting everything, just trying not to go down, but I was so winded. And I remember I'm backpedaling, and I'm just defending for like probably like 45 seconds, and I just held him off. He couldn't put me away. And I remember it was the mental fortitude. This is like how because I put so much into that training camp. I was like, I'm not going out like that, man. But I ended up getting through that round, and he had wasted a lot of energy trying to put me out. And then the second round, I stick to the game plan. I keep going to the body. He's kind of like wasted a little bit, but he's waiting for the second wind. And then I'm on him. And then I win that round. And I win the third round. And I win the fourth round. And I keep doing this, and I'm applying more pressure. In the fifth round, he hit me. He caught me with another shot. This guy was probably the biggest puncher I ever faced in my whole life. Like, this guy was a puncher, man. And I remember seeing him at the weigh-in. I was like, this guy is huge, man. He was massive. Like, seriously. And then, anyways, he hurt me again in the fifth. But I had the same thing. I had too much going into the fight. Like, I needed to win this. I had my heart on my sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I ended up. I held up. I stayed up in the fifth. He couldn't put me down. He tried, but I stayed up. And then I was all over him in the sixth again, in the seventh, and then all the way up. It was a 10-round fight, but I had beat him up to the body so bad. There was a couple times in the fight where I was like hitting the heavy bag. I just had him, and he was guarding, and I'm right side, left side, right, and I'm just ripping as hard as I could. And it was like I'm putting everything into this, and I ended up winning a decision, a unanimous decision. But it was like, that one was like, that guy was the biggest puncher I ever faced in my whole life. That was the hardest I ever got hit in the body in my whole life. And it was the most heart that I had to put into the training camp and into a fight. That one was like, that one changed my life, man.
You had to really dig deep that one, eh?
Big time.
Yeah?
Big time.
I want to ask you this now, because like I always wanted to know, when you're like in that fight and you smell blood, you know, the Machado fight, when you had him, like, what was going through your mind where you're like, oh, this is it, baby, you're going down? Like, walk us through that. Walk us through the mind, man.
Well, see, now, okay, so when I'm in fight mode is when I kind of let my bad side out. So my whole life I needed that vent, and now I'm leaning into that vent, and it's okay to be that guy when you're fighting. Me, all of my life, I'm like a nice guy. I'm like, I have my family, my friends, like, you know, I'm in the gym and stuff. I'm a nice guy. But when I'm fighting, that's when I get to let it go and let it out and let the dragon out. You know what I mean? And this is like, when I see somebody's hurt, right now I listen to my coach. Mike Moffa is my coach, and he's a boxing mind. And he, actually funny, that's another one, but he was the only guy ever to come up with a game plan to beat me when I believed that I was the better fighter, the more physically capable guy, but they beat me on strategy. So after the fight, I went to Montreal and I said, Mike, show me how you beat me. Teach me what you did.
I like that.
Yeah. And then he did. And then we worked better as a team than we did against each other. Wow. And then in the fight, in the Machado fight, I always just listen to my coach. And then when I got him hurt, I'm locked in like this, and I know it's go time. It's, you know, I don't want to say, well, whatever. It's kill mode, man. We got to take this guy out. But I look at my coach, and he's going to tell me how. We're going to do this, okay? Don't overcommit, okay? And actually what Mike said to me the last fight, I put Machado down, And I remember Mike said to me, just don't worry, we got the round, come to the corner. And it was smart because Machado came out swinging right after
away.
and then I remember I threw the right hand, but I leaned to the left. So I throw like a non-committing right hand. I go to get out of the way. And he threw a big haymaker punch. Like, I'm in danger. I need to save myself kind of punch. And had I just walked in there, I might have taken it. I don't know. But I owe that one to my coach. So it's about being smart, communicating with your team. But I know I had him hurt, but I don't want to overcommit. And I listen to the game plan, listen to the technique or the calls that are being asked of me, and that's how we finish them. And then you always want to take your emotion out of it because we're going to take this guy out. Yeah, we're going to take this guy out, but we're going to do it with strict technique like this. And sometimes, like it happened to myself when I was in the Philippines and I fought and I heard him, okay, I got him, I'm going to get him. And then what I actually did was I missed a left hook and boom.
That's how you hurt.
That's how I hurt my back. So I was over eager. And I put so much in trying to finish it. And so that was probably a lesson that I learned. And it's like, okay, you can't always go all out like that. But there is time to go for the kill. You got to be smart with it. You got to be strategic. You got to be tactical. But when you got them hurt, there's a time to press. And there's time to finish. And there's a time to, take space and be technical too. So there's a lot to it, man.
I love it, man. That comes with experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
I hear it all the time in
100%.
boxing where you stop looking for the knockout. If it's there, it's there, and that's what happened, man. Let's just wrapping it up. I know you talked about your fight coming up. What are your future plans, though, aside from fighting, if there are any?
Well, the one plan is the world title. So I gotta put that because there ain't nobody from Calgary who's taken the world title, that one, and I need that. Man. So I'm going for it, and that is the plan. Further than that, maybe open the gym.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's one thing to know it, but you got to pass it on. And I know down the road when I'm done fighting, I'll for sure be a trainer, and I would love to have fighters and coach guys and stuff, and have my own gym. Like that's something that I would definitely will get into. And we'll see. I mean, I've always thought about doing like broadcasting and talking about the fights and stuff because I think that would be fun too. But one step at a time. Right now, I'm just seeing how far I can take it, and then preparing myself to do those things later. Yeah, a little bit, but right now we're locked in on the fight, baby. That's what we need.
Laser focus,
I can't
baby.
wait to revisit this, man. We telling people, no, this is just not a one-time thing. It's gonna be like a relationship, man.
Yes, sir.
Good luck in your fight. We're all here for you. The whole city, man, is gonna watch, man. So
good.
Spare all the details. You said September 18th.
8th.
So September 8th. That's my anniversary with my wife. That's my birthday.
Nice.
September 8th in Gatineau, Quebec.
Yes, sir.
You'll be the main event.
Yes, sir.
And where can they find you?
You can find me on S Dragon. If you pretty much on anywhere on social media, you look up S Dragon, you'll find me. That's me.
Perfect. Any questions before I wrap it up for you?
Oh yeah, let me ask you this, man.
What's up?
Canelo or Charlo?
Oh,
Canelo got the experience, man. Charlo's gonna need a Hail Mary if he's gonna be able to pull that off. Canelo's gonna take it.
You think it's a Hail Mary?
He's gonna need it. He's gonna need something. The Charlos are dogs, man. So we'll see. I saw a thing that said they're both gonna fight him. I don't even.
Well, to be honest, I'm happy that he's fighting Jermel, like the more active one, rather than the other guy. Apparently, once he fights Jermel, he fights Big Bro.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Just fight someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
It's a weird. I don't know, man. I'm leaning Canelo because he just got the experience. He knows what to do, even with all the athletic ability and all the hype. Not hype, but like bravado coming in with him. Like Charlos are. I love the Charlos because they're about it.
Yeah.
They're gonna come and fight, and
Dogs.
they're gonna come and bring it, and they're tough, man. And that goes very far in boxing. But against that team and that experience and that intelligence, you got to go with Canelo. He's hard to beat right now.
Agreed. Now, very last question, man. With all the experience you have now, you've gone through a lot in life. what is one piece of advice you'd give young Dragon when he first turned pro?
Good question.
That is a good question. Just, it's okay to trust in your team and like open up to your team, because it was something I always felt like I was alone, and then looking back, I was like, well, I had people who were there. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of people trying to take advantage of me. Like I had a lot of times when I was young, and promoters would come along or management would come along, and they'd take some money on the side, and they'd sign me up for fights I didn't want, and but when you have the people that you can trust them, and them, like, man, just like we were saying before, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So trust in your team, and remember that it's okay to be open. It's not you against the world. It's you and your team against the world.
Facts.
Big. Absolutely, man. Very last question we ask everyone, man, who should be our next guest on this podcast? And of course, once you mention that person, or it could be more than one, you gotta plug us, man.
Okay, you guys ever talk to Mean Hakeem?
Mean Hakeem? Who's that?
The guy from the UFC from Calgary? That's my boy, man. Hakeem Dawodu. He's from Calgary. He's one of two guys who are in the UFC, MMA fighter. He's my boy too. So
You were sparring with him, you were saying.
we boxed. I boxed with him. Yeah, we boxed. I'll tell you. Okay, quick story.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm like 15, right? And I'm boxing at my gym, and I remember there's a guy shows up to my gym. He's got all his gear. He's got his bag. And he's like a mean guy.
That's like that. Hence the name.
and he's like, yo, I'm here for some work. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, I gotta work on my hands. I gotta sharpen my hands. He's like, I want to box with the best boxer. And I was like, well, that would be me.
Okay.
And he's like, can I get some work? And I was like, let's get it. And then I was like, okay. And so we get ready, we spar. And I remember back then, like, nobody had ever gone 8 rounds with me. Like, nobody. And I was like, yo, man. And we went 8 rounds, and we went hard, and we were pushing each other. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, yo, nobody ever went 8 rounds with me before. And that was some good work. I'm like thinking in my head, and I go up to him, I'm like, yo, we should keep working, man. And he's like, yo, nobody ever went 8 rounds with me. So I was like, okay, so we're getting
there
it.
You go,
and then we've been working together ever since, man. And you know what? Been going up and up and up. So that's my boy, man.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
I would love to hear that story again from this side, man.
Right? I love that, man. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I know you're in training camp. Probably takes a lot out of you to even talk right now.
I'm happy to be here, guys.
So we appreciate your time. Can't wait to watch your fight on September 8th. It's going to be fireworks. We'll be right here rooting for you. And my name is MP.
My name is Stefan, SB, and we have
The Dragon.
the legend.
Legend.
And we're out, baby.
Peace.